Hey everyone, David Mario Smith here. Welcome back to In the Flow with David Mario. We've been on sort of a little summer hiatus, but we are back, and I have an awesome guest today. I can't wait for her to join us. We have the fabulous, incomparable Julie Kniseley here, president of
Well,
James Moore HR Solutions. Welcome, Julie.
thank you. Thank you for the invitation. This is exciting.
How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. A little hot here in Florida, but it's going to get a little better soon.
Oh, wow. So, how was your summer? Was your whole summer in Florida, or?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
It's a
that's
little
pretty
warm.
hot.
A
Yeah, it's
little
pretty.
warm.
So I was in Atlanta in July, which was quite hot. I wasn't ready
Yes.
for the Atlanta mosquitoes. You know,
Oh yes.
they love that fresh California blood. It seemed.
That's awesome.
Oh man, so how's it going?
It's going very well. Staying busy as I know you are too, right?
Yes, yes. It's funny, in years gone by, I think like pre-COVID, usually and the conference season would end, in the spring. We had a summer lull, and then it'll pick up again in the fall. There were like several events during the summer, which kept the summer quite busy, which is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Yeah,
well, a lot of having to make up for all of those COVID years.
indeed, indeed.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
Julie, you are a super powerhouse in HR, and so I can't wait to talk to you. And we've talked before, and
Mhm.
something that's become very clear is your view of HR. It's not just a support system, but sort of a true strategic partner in a business. And so, before we get into all the stuff with the deep stuff in AI and all the crazy stuff, what's your sort of philosophy, about HR and HR fitting into the business?
Well, I think, COVID did, there were a few things that COVID did that I would consider on the positive side. And I think one of
Hmm.
those is how HR is perceived
Yeah.
within organizations because HR had to handle a lot of the difficulty of a pandemic that no one knew what to do with, how to
Hmm.
make sure employees are healthy. What do you do with your workforce? What do you do with remote work and all of those things? So, way back when I started in HR, it was really considered a transactional activity. They
Hmm.
do paperwork, they keep forms, they make sure people get onboarded and offboarded, but that was it. And over the last few years, I'm glad I'm still in this profession to see the turn that we
Yeah.
really are becoming more strategic partners as we should be in the organization
Yeah.
because what we do and now with workforce planning and strategic planning and design and what's going on with the workforce and all of the boomers retiring is how do you do more with less
Yeah.
people that are going to be available for work. So I think it's really become mission critical to make sure that you've got really good, solid HR people that are a part of your team as a leadership
Yeah.
group, so that
Hmm.
they can help you with that. We are
Yeah.
now getting a seat at the table where 30 years ago we just didn't get that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that. Was there a moment like in time for you, when that realization, sort of hit, when you may not have had a seat at the table? You mentioned that 30
Yeah,
year span.
I
Yeah.
mean, I've been very fortunate with the
Yeah.
the people I've been around and the bosses that I've had, and
Mm.
they really did kind of had more of an understanding of it and
Yeah.
brought me in before many would have. But probably by about 2000, not just for me, but for others, I started to
Hmm.
kind of really start to see that shift. It's a
Yeah.
work in progress, though. It's a work in progress because there is still organizations that they have one person that kind of handles paperwork and they still believe that that's what that is. And I think every year that goes by now, you're seeing more and more that they're like, uh-oh, I didn't think about this part. Not only
Yeah.
from compliance and all of the rules and regulations, but since we're going to be talking about AI, is how do you get your workforce ready for something like that
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
when
No.
we weren't even talking about it 2 years ago.
Well, since you brought it up, let's go there, right?
Yep.
And so,
Yeah.
like you've established sort of this mindset of HR as a strategic business partner. Now along comes AI, right? Which is arguably what the biggest strategic disruptor for business
Oh yeah.
like a generation, right? I mean, like
Yeah,
it's insane. I mean, and then things change every week, right? It's
correct.
you know 1 week
Yes.
it's like now it's evolved to something else, right? And so
Yep.
how does a forward thinking HR leader like yourself begin to evaluate this sort of massive tool, right? And how
Yep.
massive it is? Do you see it primarily as a challenge to the workforce or as an opportunity to amplify that strategic role of HR even further?
It's both.
Hmm.
It's both. I mean, everybody is all companies are really at a different evolution in their HR journey, right?
Yeah.
So some have been all in since the beginning, for the last 2 years, and they are trying to figure out how to maximize it in their workforces. And others are kind of taking a back seat, going, let's let other companies learn their lessons, and then we'll get in slowly and dip our toe in a little bit. But
Yeah.
I do think, while it is evolving and changing so rapidly, one of the challenges is a lot of employees don't know anything about it, or
Mm.
they see it as a threat because they don't know anything about it. And
Yeah.
I am a 100% advocate about proper and often communication. I am completely biased. I'm always needing to communicate. If you think you're over communicating, you're really not. You're really not. And you have to get on top of it and in front of it. And if the answer is, what, we're kind of starting to look at it, but we're
Hmm.
really not sure what's going to happen with AI, well, tell
Yeah.
employees that, because the absence of information is where you breed that fear, right? And
Mm.
fear that my job's going to go away. I've been at some conferences, and I was at one conference where somebody on a panel said, all the jobs are going away. All the jobs are going away. I'm like, well, gosh, if all the jobs are going away, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Sit
Yeah.
around and twiddle our thumbs or something? So I don't think that's the reality. But
Right. Right.
are some jobs? Maybe. But I think for me, in what I'm hearing and experiencing, is jobs are going to change.
Ah.
They're going to evolve into something a little bit different, or
Hmm.
very different, depending on the industry and size
Hmm.
and those types of things. But it's not so much, to me, is all the jobs are going away, but they're
Hmm.
going to change. And so
Right.
you've got to communicate that with people often, often, often.
Yeah, and that's funny. I was, you're right. So, gosh, I can't imagine being at a conference and this guy's up on stage or lady fear mongering. Like your jobs are going away. I mean, it's like not people are already anxious. There's already all this
Yes.
anxiety and the fear, and to just have someone on stage saying that, you're like, oh my god,
Yeah.
what's
Yes. Yeah, but when you try to drill down, what is okay? When try to think of through some examples. What jobs? We won't need
right?
doctors anymore.
Hmm. Hmm.
We won't need. And I used an example at the time, say that you worked for me, and instead of giving you a performance evaluation, to be a little HRE for a second, instead of giving you a performance evaluation, I give you a link where a bot gives you
Hmm.
your performance evaluation. As a
Yeah.
human being, how do you think that feels? So I think it's some organizations maybe are doing this. I don't know many, but I'm sure
Yeah.
there are some out there that are so enthusiastic about going in that direction. It's like, let's not forget the human element, because at the end of the day, we're here, and we need
Yeah.
to be able to interact with each other and do it in a way that's respectful and gives us opportunity for growth and learning and all of those things. And if we put people in front of a computer to talk to it
Hmm.
and to get that kind of feedback instead of a doctor or something. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know if that's if I'm not ready for that. I don't know
Yeah.
a lot of organizations that are really thinking that that's going to happen anytime in the near future. Right?
Right, and so I love your previous point about you got to over communicate around this stuff, right? And so
Yes.
as you're working with businesses, who are trying to bring AI into their operation, you have the employee fear, the anxiety, right? So you have to communicate, and sort of assuage that fear. But can we move? How do you sort of get business leaders to move beyond sort of the buzzwords, improving productivity, cost savings, when you're in the room with like a CIO, with a CEO, what's the real driver that you're sensing? Is it genuine optimism about the innovation of AI, or is it more of a fear of being left behind sort of scenario?
Well, again, it depends on the organization,
Hmm.
and how progressive they are in their technology. Some, AI is so new. There's limited opportunities to have what you would call an expert in it, right?
Yeah,
So how do you, if you don't have anybody in your organization that is an expert or understand what's going on, then you either have to hire it, find
yeah,
somebody and hire it, or get a consultant to kind of help you. So I think some organizations, again, it's so new and it's changing so rapidly, they're kind of trying to figure out, okay, what could we do with this? What could we do
Exactly.
with this? And
Hmm.
some companies, like if you're in manufacturing, for example, they're all over this, because
Yeah.
in manufacturing, being able to build in efficiencies and build in quality controls and have cost savings,
Hmm.
all of that trickles down to so many different other parts of the business,
Hmm.
that I think they're kind of jumping in more than some other industries
Hmm.
to kind of explore what AI can do for them. And
Yeah.
is it cost savings? Sure. Oh yeah, of course. You can't
Hmm.
say that it's not to save costs. Of course it is. But maybe that's cost savings can then be spent on more innovation and more
Absolutely.
technology and more growth and more opportunities for employees.
Yeah.
And it's trying to kind of make sure that you put your hand up over here and say, don't forget the people.
Yeah.
In your enthusiasm, don't forget the people and the impact that's going to have, how
Yeah.
jobs are going to change, how you need to teach them and train them on these tools. I
Absolutely.
mean, I 6 months ago, a year ago, you went on chat. What did people think it was or thought it was to help write an email?
Hmm.
Now look where we are, and
Oh yeah.
and what AI different AI programs can do, and imagine what we're going to be talking about a year from
Yeah, because like now we're into agentic AI, which is a
now.
whole
Mm-hmm.
different animal. Now you
Oh yeah.
have these autonomous agents that not only are they doing work for you, they're also responding, they're coordinating with other agents, and there's a whole army of agents now. They're doing
Yes.
whole workflows from soup to nuts, right, end to end. And it's and
Mm-hmm.
so you need that human. So the thing is that even in that scenario, the human is still needed in that loop because there's a lot of
Sure.
risk factors, right? In terms of especially if you're in a regulated industry or whatnot, you need a human in that loop to make sure things are going good for transparency.
Yep. Well, and I mean, the AI can hallucinate, right? How do you know you're getting the right answer? And guess
Absolutely,
who built it? A bunch of humans who
exactly.
might have made some mistakes. So it can get trained improperly or incorrectly. So you have to have a human to do that critical thinking to make sure that what you're seeing and what you're receiving, that
Hmm.
output is accurate to the best of your
Yes.
ability. And then, on our side, on the HR side, there's also the having to watch out for the systems developing bias or having bias in its
Yes.
processes because the human's not touching it, whether it be, cradle
Hmm.
to grave from an employee experience from
Yes.
recruiting. Is it knocking out, is AI within an applicant tracking system knocking out resumes and applicants because it's either picking up a keyword or not picking
Hmm.
up a keyword? So if a human's not kind of watching out to see if something
Exactly.
is happening there, then
Hmm.
you could end up losing a lot of really good candidates. There might be some issues with the types, discrimination issues
Hmm.
because of the types of candidates that are getting knocked out. And then
Yes.
I think you and I, when we talked the last time, I mentioned white fonting, which was new to
Yes.
me like 2, 3 months ago. I'm like, what the heck is white fonting? And
Right.
now people are learning, okay, how do I get around the AI system?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
white fonting, for those of you at home, white fonting
Hmm.
is adding things to your resume in a white font so that it is not visible when you look at it on a PDF,
Yeah.
but it is visible when it's put through an AI system. So
Interesting.
it can work in the opposite way too, where people can learn how to manipulate some of this stuff.
My goodness, it's a whole new world. It's funny.
It is.
I just read, was it, I think yesterday or the other day. Google sort of re-looking at their hiring process because of this. And they're going a lot more in-person interviews and earlier rounds now because of this issue.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And again, I mean, the workforce is going to change. We all know
Hmm.
it's going to change, but the human element is not. So you
Yeah,
really do have to have human eyes on it. And again, I mean, if culture is important to you and your organization, then you have to have a human involved in the interviewing process, right?
yeah.
Because how do you know a bot or an AI is not going to
Mhm.
know if that person is going to be a good fit for your culture, and that person won't know if they
Exactly,
want to work for you in the environment that you have, and that stuff is so
exactly.
mission critical these days.
Exactly. I mean, and with AI, obviously, it's the data has to be correct, right? One of the things I see with AI projects failing, whether it's in an HR scenario, sales, marketing, whatever, is the data, right? So if the data is not clean and ready, garbage in, garbage out, that whole
Oh
adage,
yeah.
right? And so even with AR, with HR, it is critical that there's transparency,
Hmm.
explainability, that a
Yes.
human needs to be able to explain what is actually
Yes.
happening.
Yes. Yes, and again, you're now with the boomers all out. I'm at the tail end of boomer. I'm not going to be around forever, and there's not enough population of people coming up to take the place of all of those. So
Yeah.
we need AI. We need AI to build in efficiency because there's not going to be enough people to do all of this work in another like 20 years or something like that. So we need it. But this workforce that exists now, not maybe my age, but a little bit younger than me, needs to learn how to use these tools. So one way you get rid of that fear factor, is going to take my job, is show them how to use the tool, put together teams that, or sandbox opportunities so they can get in there and play around with it. And I was talking to a client recently, and we were talking about the AI thing. They don't know how to use it. I'm like, well, who do you think you should ask? Your employees, the ones that are on the floor that are doing the work day to day, are the ones that are probably best suited to research and figure out how is AI best used in that organization for that process or whatever it is.
Exactly.
A bunch of IT people sitting, no offense to IT people, but IT people sitting behind a computer without any involvement of the employees, then to me, that's a recipe for failure. So you really got to get the employees involved so that they're the ones that help you figure out what you're supposed to do.
Exactly, because the bad result of not doing what you're saying, what you're recommending, not sort of leading, communicating. If that communication goes wrong, you just drop this tech on people on the team without understanding their workflow or their processes, and the damage is trust and morale.
Right.
Goes down. And so you have to get it right.
Right. Well, and by nature, most of us don't handle change well. If you've been doing something the same way for the last 25 years or 20 years, it's really difficult to change. So you've got to, back to that communication, you've got to give people time to ramp up and adjust to the change. And if they don't understand what's behind it or what the ultimate goal is, then it's going to be even more difficult for them to get used to it because they're going to get really resistant to it,
Yeah, and so we're at this pivotal moment, right? Where, as you're saying, it's not about replacing people, right? But again, empowering them to work in new ways, right? That's one of the things I think with agentic AI, we're able to sort of, so maybe you couldn't, justify headcount for something, now with agents, you can actually get something done with human supervision that you probably couldn't get before because you can hire a team to do it, but now you can do new things that you've never even dreamed of before. So I think there's lots of, advantages that can be accrued, but again, you have to communicate, you have to sort of do this right way. There may be upskilling, reskilling that needs to happen.
Yes. I mean, I've talked to a lot of employees and said, okay, what's the thing that you dislike about your job the most? And a lot of them will say something. It's something that's very repetitive that they have to do. I have to do all this data entry, or I have to work on this report, or I have to do all this. What could you be doing if you weren't having to spend 8 hours or 10 hours doing that every week? I could be doing these other things. It's like, well, that's what AI can do for you. If you could figure out how to take those things that you don't like, that part of your job, because it's mundane, it's routine, if you can automate that and use AI tools for that, then you can go and do things that might be more enjoyable to you too. So it's, again, it's the messaging and how you approach it with the employees, and again, get their buy-in and get their information and their support so that they can tell you what they need. And because they know, I guarantee you, they know.
Absolutely. And so, are you seeing anyone sort of charting a course towards this, or anyone that you're working with, trying to figure this out and actually starting charting a course towards that end?
Yes. Yeah, I have a couple clients that are really have embraced the change. And they weren't the first to hop in, but they're doing it the right way. They are putting together AI champions, people that maybe like to dabble in it personally, and they just are really enthusiastic about it. So you get these AI champions that can help with the other employees that might not be so enthusiastic or a little more resistant. They're putting together teams, AI teams by department or functional area to say, okay, let's figure out what are those things that we might be able to improve or automate with AI. And then they can test out those things out before it's rolled out to the entire company. I limit the failures at the beginning through that sandbox environment and trying things out. Then the organization will succeed in the long run. So it's the ones that are communicating often, putting the right teams together and really just embracing their employees' participation in the process versus sitting in a
Yeah.
leadership meeting and then telling the employees what's going to happen.
So they're bringing the people along, which is key here, right?
Absolutely. I know that's what I would want as an employee. That's what I
Yeah.
want. Don't surprise me and
Yeah.
all of a sudden say next week you're going to start doing half your job differently. I won't like that.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot
Yeah.
of us won't like that, right? But yes, you're right. The key is you have to sort of bring people along because it's a journey, right? And one thing, and sometimes with a journey, the fun part is the
Yeah.
actual journey. Getting there because that's where you build your muscle, right? It's sort of being in the gym. That's where you sort of build the
Yes.
muscle and that
Yep.
toughness, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Imagine what we're going to be
And so
talking about 2 years from now.
Oh my gosh, it's funny. I remember I was at a HR Tech conference. Hey, HR Tech, and it was like seven years ago, pre-pandemic stuff. And I remember this gentleman gets on stage and he's like, "It's time to bring the human back in HR." And I'm like, "They never left," But I knew what he
Right.
meant, but it was just like,
Right.
they never left, man.
Yes.
And that's one thing. So one thing about you, and again, we've talked before, is that you really champion sort of that human element, but people. It's the people that are actually doing this work. So with any new tool, any new technology, you have to always bring it back to the actual
Yes.
people that are doing the
100%.
work. Right.
100%. And like I said, I'm completely biased on communication. I was a communication major in college. So I came out of school with this same philosophy. And sometimes it's the hardest thing to do. I'm not quite sure why. I haven't figured that out yet. If I did, I'd write a book and I'd make millions of dollars, right? But the hardest thing to do sometimes is to communicate effectively, honestly, because people think it's going to cause conflict. And not all conflict is bad. Conflict is how you grow and
Yes.
innovate. So, but so many are afraid to have the conversation. It's like, don't let people find out through a grapevine. Don't let people find out things through a grapevine. And again, it's not a bad thing. AI and incorporating AI is not a bad thing. So don't turn it into one by trying to just be really quiet about what you're doing. Get people involved. Let them help you. It's been an interesting journey over the years because I probably at least once a week am pounding on the whole communication piece. And I don't know why. It's just one of those things that's a little bit lacking. I talked to some students at a HR class, and we were talking about using AI for job hunting and emails and stuff like that. I'm like, hey, you know what? I get it. AI is going to really help you. Chat is going to help you. But if I get an email that says, I hope this email finds you well, I know AI wrote it. So I don't mind AI helping you, but add some of your personality in there. If it gets you 80% of the way there, great. But let me kind of get a little bit of sense of who you are and not just cut paste,
We all see those, it's the blogs, that lack any sort of personality, and hey, I love an M dash here and there, but when I start seeing them all over, and the extra semicolons, I'm like, that's a lot of semicolons.
Yeah.
And again, I used to, and so it makes me now, sort of shy away from using them because I'm like, people think this is AI.
Well, at the end of the day, it's a tool. It's not supposed to be 100%.
Exactly.
It's supposed to be a tool to help you do your job, not to replace your job or to replace you actually having to put a little bit of effort into what you're doing,
Yeah. So as we look to the future, for HR to remain, this vital strategic partner, what is the single most important skill or mindset that HR professionals themselves need to cultivate?
For the HR,
we know you're big on communication.
Yes. Well, obviously, right. From the HR thing, I said a lot of HR people need to get out of the transactional mindset too. It's really easy for people in my possession. We wear a lot of hats in a lot of cases, right? So we're doing a million different things. And it's really easy to just have your blinders on because you're dealing with the transactional activities or employee relations issues every day, all of which are important. But we have to put another hat on. And the hat we need to start putting on is the CEO hat and the CFO hat and the COO hat. We have to put those hats on too to say, okay, if I want that seat at the table and I want to be able to influence, as I think I should, where this organization is
Yeah.
going from a workforce standpoint, then I need to be able to speak the language of those C-suite people, and I need to understand
Yeah.
where they're coming from. So I have to balance my protection for the organization, my protection for employees, with also the economic
Yeah.
realities of what's going on in the business. So again, HR,
Indeed.
we get so focused and so buried in kind of the day to day, it can be really difficult for that mind shift. But as I said, I mean, in my profession over the last 10, 20 years, I'm really starting to see that shift, thank goodness. It might not be for
Yeah.
everybody. Some people might prefer just to stay where they are. But generally speaking, I think that as the workforce strategic planning becomes mission critical with the lack of people we're going to have and all of this automation coming, I really don't see that HR has a choice. And we need to make sure the C-suite knows that.
Yeah.
You have got to bring us in early. You
Absolutely.
got to listen to what we have to say, because otherwise, you know, you're going to be going off in one direction and the employees are going that way.
Absolutely. And it's how do you sort of, shift from that transactional type of culture? And in some companies, that's the
Yes.
culture. So how do you sort of shift from that mindset, to more of a participatory, collaborative, where, we used to, gosh, I remember in my early days at Gartner, we used to, talk about, HR, IT being part of the business and IT and HR alignment. And where it's like, no, but we treat it as two separate
Mm-hmm.
entities, HR, IT, no, but if it's the business, if it's the one business, we should be, more of a seamless,
Yes,
collaboration, not just two entities trying to collaborate. It should be more of a similar goals and,
absolutely.
and, and so forth.
Absolutely. We can't be on an island.
Exactly. Exactly. My goodness. Julie, this has been an incredibly insightful
It's been great.
conversation. And, so yeah, for all the business leaders and employees listening, don't be afraid.
It's
It's
going
going
to
to be
be
okay,
okay.
guys.
We
It's going to be all
promise.
right.
We promise.
Yeah, but we want to navigate this transition with more
Yes.
humanity, right? And foresight, and so where is the best place for people to connect with you and your
Hmm.
team?
Our
Julie's book?
website is the best place. There's a lot of articles and different things, some AI related and other topics, and that is a jmco.com/HR-solutions. And you can also find me and my
Alrighty.
team on there. But there's a lot of really good content. So if you just want to do a deep dive on some articles about AI and some of the more practical use cases that we kind of hinted on, then we've
Yeah.
got a lot of content on there that might be helpful. And always happy to chat with anybody that might have some questions.
Oh my God. So, Julie, what would you, and I always ask this question to my guests, so it's not like a crazy jump, but what would you tell Julie early on in her career? What advice would you give to Julie just starting her
Have more
career
confidence in
in
my
HR?
voice, because it took me a really
Mm,
long time, I think, to find my voice and speak up for what I believe in with that C-suite group. Even though I was exposed to the C-suite very
yes.
early, I was much more timid when I was younger. And
Yeah.
so if I could tell my person
Mm,
that now, because I knew what I was doing. I had really good advice, but I was
yeah.
afraid to
Yeah.
speak it.
Ah, I can resonate with that because I was that. I did a talk. I think last week it was, or a couple weeks ago, about the same thing. Where it's like there is, especially coming in and being African American in sort of this tech field, I had some of
Mm-hmm.
that. Where there's the imposter syndrome thing, kicks in, and I had to learn to
Yeah.
find my voice. Like what is my voice? What's my
Yes.
authentic voice? Not just a voice that I put on for this person, that person. Who am I? In any particular situation, I have to be me in every situation
Yes.
that I'm in. I can't not
Yeah.
be me, right? So how do I bring myself, my
Exactly.
whole self in every situation and be
Yeah.
authentic? Yeah,
And I think that's the message
absolutely.
with this.
That
The
totally
message with
resonates.
this entire thing is be authentic in your communication. You know, people can smell
Yeah.
fake a mile away. And
Oh yeah.
gosh, that
Oh yeah.
is a recipe for disaster in any organization. If you try to come across as fake or talk out of both sides of your mouth
Indeed.
kind of thing, you know?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. People, the kids, as my daughter says, like, or the kids say, "That's cap, that's cap," you're capping, and so like the kids know when you're capping,
Yes.
being fake and lying and
Yeah,
not being yourself.
exactly. Very true.
Julie,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for getting in the flow with us today. This has been awesome. And to our audience, thanks for tuning in and join us next time. Julie,
Thank
thank you
you.
so
Enjoy the
much.
rest of your day.